Thank you everyone for coming to my 100th meetup. I really appreciate this. This project started off with just a small idea of just to getting to know people and meeting people, but it's grown to become so much more. Today I've now met 134 people from 56 countries from around the world. This idea started so small, it became to be this amazing community right over here. To be honest, growing up I was never the most outgoing person. I never wanted to go meet strangers or talk to new people. I always felt like I didn't belong. I never felt like I deserved to meet them in a way. I was just too scared. I had my friend group, I stayed with my friend group. Didn't want to really get outside my bubble. I wasn't as outgoing or open-minded as I should have been. Fast forward to university, I attended an engineering conference in the US. This conference was comprised of people from all around the world. And it was my first time interacting with people with different backgrounds and cultures that I had never ever interacted with. At the end of the conference, I left with becoming friends with people from the Dominican Republic and Romania, two countries that I never thought I'd be able to relate to. And it's amazing to see how far I'd come from that point to now. And that was the point that I knew to start this. To quarantine, I reached quarantine. I really wanted to start a new project and do something. At the time, I faced a difficult situation and I lost my internship for the summer. Since I lost my internship, I wanted to do something big and start a new project and maybe try something new in a way. I knew I wanted to leave quarantine a better version than I entered it. So I decided to start a project in a way that I can connect people in some way. I was inspired by this man named Rob Lawless. Rob started a project where he wanted to meet 10,000 strangers from different parts of around the world. And he started this 2 years ago and he's met over 3,600 people now. Along with Rob, I was also inspired by a group called Yes Theory. Yes Theory makes videos about meeting people and adventure and getting out of your comfort zone and discovering new human connection. I wanted to create a project that combines Rob's project with Yes Theory's premise into one. So I decided to make a post in the Yes Theory community on Facebook asking people if they wanted to meet me and that I wanted to meet them and allow them to be social at a time where it was difficult to be social. With a click of a button, a quick caption, and a picture of me holding a whiteboard, I ended up getting over 300 responses from people from all around the world. This was an amazing experience, and over the past 4 months I've been just doing calls with people from different continents and countries and meeting everyone here. I've learned so many lessons along the way, and today I'm going to be sharing 3 big lessons I've learned along my journey. As some of you may know, I try to enter all my calls with trying to know the least amount of the people I'm going to meet. But I wasn't always like that. In fact, in my first 4 calls, I was actually the opposite. I would purposely go on people's profiles and get a gauge of who they were, whether it be seeing what university they went to, what they studied, maybe their profile picture, maybe their last post in a way, just to try to gauge who I was going to talk to and get some points to be able to talk to them about. That's when I met Tony in my 4th call. Tony is a very adventurous guy, and his profile picture was him shirtless on a beach with tattoos. Now, instead of thinking logically in the way that Tony is from Panama and there's beaches all over Panama, so it makes sense. But no, my mind sort of went the opposite. I prejudged Tony in a way that I thought, oh, this guy's just a confident guy. Oh, he's very slick. Oh, he thinks he's very cool. And, oh, let's just get this call over with. To my amazement, at the end of the call, I was completely wrong. Tony was actually one of the most positive people I met throughout my whole project. And we started really interacting and connecting on meeting strangers and talking to people and telling each other how much it's impacted our lives. That's when I learned my first lesson along my project, in that it doesn't matter where you're from, what you do for a living, what your profile picture is, what your hobbies are, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, the only way to get to know somebody is through talking to them and having a deep and open conversation. No 2 people from the same place think the same way and are the same people. After that moment, I really tried to focus on not knowing as much as I could, not knowing as much about the people I was going to meet throughout my project, and try to go in with an open mind and basically an open canvas and just meet people that more natural way. As I went through my project, I figured I had learned all I could, and became a lot more of a routine basis. Until I reached call number 30, and that's when I learned my second lesson. That's when I met Caitlin. Caitlin is a very adventurous girl from Ohio that loved to seek discomfort, travel, and meet new strangers. Along with that, Caitlin also valued listening, and in fact, in the beginning of our call, she spoke to me about how much she valued it, and she told me two things that I'm not going to forget. Number one was a quote in that we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we have to listen twice as much as we speak. The second was a story about the American educator Jane Elliott. Jane was teaching a class, and one day a student put their hand up. And she told them to put their hand down because with them having their hand up, all they were thinking about was the question that they were going to ask, rather than what was being taught. That had me stop and think and sort of reflect to myself on how I was running my calls. As the host of a call, you sometimes get occupied with making sure the conversation is fluid, making sure that the person's intrigued and really active in the conversation. You don't want an awkward silence because, you can't get the whole conversation back at that point. But I noticed over time that with my mind being so occupied with these small details, I was losing what was most important, what the people were saying. People were opening up to me about stuff that they had never opened up to anybody else, and I wasn't giving the light of day and how much I should have appreciated it. From that point, I really wanted to change my mindset when I get into my calls. When I asked somebody a question, I wanted to be as open-minded as I could. So I tried to clear out any questions in my head and really try to focus on what the person's saying and really absorb it. If there was an awkward silence later on, let it happen, as long as I appreciate what they're saying. Because at the end of the day, if I want them to appreciate what I say, I have to appreciate what they say. I went on about calls, and my next lesson came in call number 46, when I met a guy named Jeremy Green. Me and Jeremy were both working on similar projects in meeting people from around the world and talking to strangers. So we really interacted and really connected on that point. We really talked about how we run our calls and what tactics you use and how you schedule and so on and so forth. Further on, I opened up to Jeremy that at times I felt like I was a burden to some people if I wanted to invite them to my call. I didn't feel like my projects were worth their time, or they were too busy for it, and I didn't want to really bug them. Instead of giving me a direct answer, Jeremy allowed me to rethink in my mind what I was saying and try to answer that question for myself. Why was I feeling that I felt like I was a burden to people when I could be the light that they need? This conversation could be something that they really wanted. Maybe they were going through a bad day and they wanted a bit of social interaction that they wouldn't otherwise have gotten. At the end of the day, sometimes we put people on pedestals and we put ourselves down here, when in reality we're all here. We're all just human. At the end of the day, if I respect your time, you respect my time, everything should be fine. I could keep going on about the lectures and lessons I've learned throughout the way, but that would sort of bore everyone here. So I'm gonna end off with this. I wanted to say thank you very much to every single one of you guys for joining the calls. It's been an amazing experience talking to you, and I really appreciate everyone that took the time, whether it was in call 82 or call 2. We spent hours talking to each other and made friendships that's going to last a lifetime. I've received so many messages of support from all of you, whether it be saying that the call was the highlight of your quarantine, or that it inspired you to start a project of your own, or it gave you the courage to talk to somebody new. These genuinely bring a smile to my face, and it warms my heart to see how much a small call became into this amazing community here. So for now, I'm going to say thank you, I appreciate you, and next time you're on the streets or you're on the internet and you run by a stranger, maybe go say hi, because at the end of the day, a stranger is a friend that you just haven't met yet. Thank you.